to do the collective energy reading for this week ahead. Today is Saturday the 9th of May. This reading will go from the 11th of May, Monday the 11th of May, throughout the week. I'll do this in 3 parts using the Forecaster Oracle. First part will be the collective energy and what we can expect to feel with the energy coming up. Then it will be how it will play out world stage in any possible predictive events coming up this week, followed by the personal energy and how to best navigate this energy. Let's get on to the reading. Just going to shuffle through and do the astrology while I'm shuffling for the collective energy reading. So I still have that large stellium in Aries, as you can see here, as the moon starts its transit mid-week this week and enters the sign of Aries for a couple of days. I think the biggest thing we're going to be really seeing this week is the Mars in Aries will be squaring the Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer is expansion of emotions because Cancer is an emotional sign. It's also a very protective sign, so protecting your energy, protecting what is yours, protecting the Strait of Hormuz, that kind of energy. And then it will be squaring with Mars. Mars rules conflicts, it rules aggression, it rules tension. Jupiter wants to expand on things, and with that squaring energy, it'll be wanting to square that Mars energy that's taking place. That Mars in Aries, by the way, as well, because it rules Aries. So it's an energy it amplifies that energy of tension, escalation, conflict, and further heightened by the expansion of Jupiter squaring the energy there. I think it's also going to be kind of like emotional outbursts, struggles with even on a personal level, struggling with trying to deal with inner anger, inner emotions, and really, or irritation even. Outwardly, it could be around the world, it could be just meltdowns we may see by certain people on the media. Energy of you're not getting your way, so having a bit of a meltdown there, expanding because of the Jupiter energy that's going to be expanding that. So really not much different than what we've seen in the astrology. We still have Aries there that's just entered into Gemini, which is 0 degrees. It's new in its home, but we've felt that energy come in last week. So there's a lot of very similar energy to what we've seen. The moon moving into Aries adds an extra dynamic to that stellium, bringing in the emotions there. But I do think we're going to be most triggered or felt by the Mars in Aries squaring the Jupiter in Cancer. Now, if you're Cancer, Capricorn, and Aries and Libra, you're going to be feeling that placement the strongest. So let's lay these cards. Let's fill into the energy of the collective energy for this week ahead. Now, last week the energy felt a lot calmer actually than it does this week. And we did have still on the ceasefire last week, and also the actions of Project Freedom was frozen. Now, what do we see this week? Okay, so what we've got is terms agreed or deal made. That's a very interesting card, given that we are in peace talks, negotiations. This is a card of making deals and negotiations. as I touch this card here, now I know it says Cosmic Frontier. It's the card that normally reminds me to do the astrology placement. And if I'm going to bring the astrology into this energy right here, it's that escalating tension being the Jupiter expanding on that Mars tension. Here I'm seeing missiles, but maybe this is what they're talking about. What I'm picking up out of this is that part of what they're trying to agree to or make deals about is the nuclear, Iran's nuclear. Okay, so I don't know, I'm hearing the word treaty, so I'm not quite sure why I'm picking up treaty here, but I just feel like this is a nuclear operation, or missiles or whatever, and I think that is the energy of agreeing or trying to make terms and agree with terms. However, given the state of the astrology, that could bring in a few meltdowns from one side or the other, or both sides. It sits next to a living in fear or a terror response. Maybe bringing in a fear. This is fear energy, as in standover tactics, doing things to cause fear to the other side. Things are unstable the way they are, and it's affecting the globe. It's affecting all countries. So they really need to think about what they've put forward in their negotiations and really start to review what it is that they're asking for. So there is a targeted strike here by an authoritarian ruler. So authoritarian response. Now it also says forced compliance, meaning an authoritarian is forced to comply. However, because it's sitting with a targeted strike or a deliberate attack, I feel like it is a targeted strike on one side or the other, just to promote fear or put the other side in terror, a show of might or will. But the issue seems to be around Iran's nuclear weapons or some kind of weapons. I'm just seeing that with the rocket here. It's showing me like missiles. Harmful exposure, toxins or virus. Okay, now if I had to feel the energy here compared to last week it was very calm energy. Now it reminds me of the reading that I done early February when I done the 3 readings on one day because I was going away, and the first reading I done was very calm. I called that reading Calm Before the Storm. The second reading that went up in the second week was the top line was still very positive cards, all the positive cards, but the bottom one started to turn. And then by the third week, it was just very chaotic cards. It was escalating tension. It was targeted strikes. It was all kind of really tense cards. And that was when the war broke out. It was declared on that last week of February. So this is kind of feeling the same. Last week felt like a bit of a calm before the storm. It felt like a bit of a pause maybe before they go into new measures I'm getting. So new energy. It was like a bit of a pause, a regrouping, just before they go into the next stage of attack or plan of attack. And this, because it's saying targeted strike, there's a little bit more tension in this energy here. This is a harmful card, but it could also be talking about a virus, but given that we've got the ship docking in, which I've got the reading up for that one already, in Tenerife. There's a ship that's just docked there with hantavirus. So this overall feeling of this energy for this week collectively, it's not as calm as last week. There's a little more tension. There's a little more emotional. I'm feeling like throwing little tantrums, a little bit more tantrum energy, but a targeted strike, a show of authoritarianism, a targeted strike this week. But really having to review what it is that they're putting forward when it comes to fuels and energies, resources, energy and fuels, because that is affecting the globe here, and they really need to make some kind of agreement. But over here it's the agreements to do with, big part of it is to do with Iran's weapons, and over here it's saying that US may have to kind of phrase it in a different way. They're either going to a show of might with this living terror attack card hit. I'm not saying terror attack. I'm showing a show of might, Again, like a targeted strike. But I do feel they're going to have to review that. Look, I'm not seeing that a deal is made, even though it says deal gets made. Sure that it holds, or that it takes further action to get it to cross the line. More tense than last week, not as tense as what it has been in past weeks, but still these cards are deals. Deals may even be collapsing. Things that they're trying to get the peace talks, where they're not fighting at the moment. Maybe that's what becomes unstable. That's not stable, and maybe that is what is collapsing. So let's move on to the predictive energy for this week. Interesting cards this week. I've never once seen this. We've got almost all of the natural disasters on the table, and I've never seen this happen. We've got some kind of upheaval, air anomalies or air turbulence. We've got shaky ground, fractured earth. So this is earthquakes, and this one over here is eruption of volcanoes. What is going on with the earth this week? Over here it's Earth response, an Earth response this week. This is the climate reckoning card, but it's also the Earth response this week. All these cards are Earth responding. I've never seen a placement like this. However, it says don't panic. It may be downgraded. So there will be, perhaps if any one of these go through, there may be some recovery that's needed. However, it will be downgraded. So it's an alert from. There might have been an alert of a eruption of some sort, but it gets downgraded. Waning light, ending or closure. Okay, this could bring the end of a chapter, could be ending something to do around the war, because that's the most prominent thing that's going on in the world right now. It could be the ending of... It's the ending of something, because I have a mourning card which talks about when a person passes. This is more like the end of something that's going on. I don't know if this is to do with UK elections. It's something that's coming to an end, whether that is something to do with the war, or the other big major thing that's happening in the world right now is the UK elections. But there is a bit of strategy that needs to, and a bit of diplomacy and strategy. Interesting cards. So we see Earth response, a whole bunch of things going on with the Earth, some recovery or rebuilding, something is downgraded, something comes to an end, being, I think, more like one of the big major events that's happening in the world right now. But then we've got this diplomacy over here, strategy. Maybe that's what's coming to an end. Strategy that's required to negotiate in a diplomatic way. But again, it's showing fallout or tension, given the astrology that I talked about as well. Maybe it's the peace talks, like where they haven't. Maybe that comes to an end because of the fallout, the diplomatic fallout, because of the strategy game, and that may come to an end this week. Could it be downgraded? Something to do with the war, or downgrading? Are we talking about if something's going on with the Earth response this week? Over here, something comes to an end. It could be peace talks coming to an end. It could be the blockade, one of the blockades in Hormuz coming to an end. Okay, let's move on to the general reading. So right now, as I'm pulling this card, this spread, it's 222 on the clock. 222 symbolises balance and harmony, partnerships, divine guidance, and encouraging trust in your path and alignment with your life purpose. So this one here, cooperation, 222. merging, cooperation, balance, harmony. I wouldn't say harmony. Now, on a personal level, I would say this energy, we're going to see some changes, changing energy this week. Hopeful energy. This is a positive card. This is the light keeper. It's keeping your light to shine out on the world, to help cleanse all the negative that's going on in the world. Now, maybe even this is a really good time this week to do some cleansing. Let go of any negativity that you've been hanging on to, any feelings of resentment or anger, frustration, boredom, solitude, whatever the energy is that you could do with a bit of a shift, a bit of a cleanse. There's a shake-up energy coming here, a transition to a more lighter energy for you. This is on a personal level. We got the beautiful angel number of 222 this week for you personally, for your week ahead. Despite whatever's going on in the world, you're a beautiful light keeper, but sometimes your energy needs to be cleansed. Sometimes you do what you can do to shine your light to others, to keep the peace, to keep the light, to keep faith, hope, and positivity amongst other people. But sometimes your energy can get run down. So it's time to just pause and do a little bit of a cleanse of your own energy, your own aura, cleanse your space, cleanse clutter. Whatever this means for you, a little bit of cleansing is going to be needed this week. But I do feel balance and harmony with the 222 energy, and that energy of balance, harmony, partnerships, and divine guidance this week. Transitional shift into positive energy, but make sure you're doing a bit of a cleanse this week on a personal level. But overall, I see a really positive week for you personally, despite whatever's going on in the world. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you do have a beautiful week, and I'll see you again next week.